So, hi there, everyone. Welcome to the July meeting of the ASU Digital Accessibility Liaisons. I'm Kathy Marks, the IT Accessibility Coordinator at Enterprise Technology, and I'm the program co-lead for the Liaisons. Alejandra has had something to do, but so she's running a little late, but she will be here. So thank you so very much for joining us this afternoon. Before we get started, I'd like to announce that, yes, these meetings are now open to any employee at ASU. In the survey you guys took last month, the majority of the liaisons voted to open these meetings to all faculty and staff. So please invite your colleagues and share the recordings of these meetings, with anybody if you think it'll help them. So I am so excited about this month's presentation. We talk a lot about how we make sites and documents and other content accessible, but sometimes even though we know, how to do something like not to skip heading levels when we mark up a web page, we don't always know why. So why can't I just use whatever size heading looks better to me, or why do I have to make them hierarchical? Well, because screen readers are able to create a list of all the headings on a page. And when those headings are hierarchical, people can get this mental image of the page and the structure of the content if your headings are correctly marked up. So it's sort of like skimming the page with your brain, not instead of your eyes. So Carla Rivas-Parker from AZTap is going to introduce us to this world of assistive technologies. And we should have a better understanding of why some of these accessibility rules exist. By the way, if you stay to the end of the meeting, we'll do another WebAIM accessibility documents course giveaway. You have to be present to win, so stick around. And then if you want, hang out with us for a little bit after the meeting to network, ask questions, tell us about a problem you're facing, share news, ideas, resources you come across. It's going to be a full afternoon. Now, I'm very, very excited to turn things over to Carla. Carla, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting us for this presentation. I am very excited. I love talking about assistive technology simply because I am a firm believer. I am an assistive technology user as well. So if it wouldn't be for assistive technology, I probably wouldn't have my job and I probably wouldn't be able to do this presentation. So like Kathy said, my name is Carla Rivas-Parker. I am one of the assistive technology specialists here at AZTap. And AZTap is the Arizona Technology Access Program, is one of the assistive technology centers in the United States. Every state has one, and we are the one here in Arizona. So there are 56 centers pretty much nationwide. So you guys talk about access to digital information. And so Kathy and I put our brains together trying to see what will be the most meaningful to share today. And we came up with some topics, and I'm just kind of gonna be going over my presentation. I have over 25 years experience working in the field of disabilities. Being blind myself, I had specialties in the areas of blindness, but being in this job with AZTap, I had learned about all the other different technologies, and I just love it. Love how technology makes a difference in person's life. So I'm gonna share my screen. Give me 1 second so that way I can share with you my PowerPoint. So when we talk about accessing digital information, we're talking about 3 main functions that have to happen for somebody to access that information. We have to be able to read the information that's presented. We have to be able to navigate, and we have to be able to type to create responses or to create documents. And so we typically do these things via two modalities, via keyboard or via using a mouse. Okay. Today, I'm gonna focus on three main disabilities. We're gonna talk about vision loss, that will include total blindness and low vision, cognition, and physical access. And here I just have three pictures in case we have audience that have limited vision. One just is a person with a cane representing the blindness. We have a person in a wheelchair getting around. And for cognition, we have a person, kind of the brain with some scattered words around. So, okay, moving next. What do I expect you guys to go away? What kind of knowledge? So I have some kind of objectives here. The objectives may be a little bit odd. You may think, what is she talking about here? Why should I know the parts of a keyboard? You will understand by the end of this presentation why this is important. You're gonna learn at least three types of assistive technology that allow a person with a disability to access digital information, which could be either through a computer or through a tablet or smartphone. And you're gonna learn about three apps that enhance the productivity of a person in the use of these of access to this digital information. So that's what I expect to be able to do today. So when we talk about digital access, mainly we're talking, for example, about email, that a person needs to be able to read an email, reply to an email, organize those emails. What are we gonna do with those when we are done reading or replying? Are we gonna delete? Are we going to create folders, save them, that kind of stuff? Word processing, also you're creating documents, you're typing, you're reading information you receive to create your document, and then what's gonna happen with your document? You're gonna have to learn how to manage that information, where you're gonna place it so you can find it and retrieve it easier. And with internet, how to navigate, you have to read, you have to write, and sometimes when you write is when you are completing forms that need to be completed online. So as you see, you have your clients, your students have to have these skills in order to have the access to this digital information. So let's take a look. We will start with vision loss, and we're gonna start with total blindness, okay? For a person with total blindness to access a computer, you have to know the keyboard. And here we have a picture of a keyboard. So what are the parts of a keyboard? We're talking about control keys, we're talking about function keys, we're talking about alphanumeric keys, navigation keys, and the numeric keypad. Control keys, we're talking about Control, Alt, Windows, Escape, Enter, and in the picture, those keys are shown in red color. We're talking about function keys, the F1, F2, F3, all the way through F12. And in the graphic, those are marked with purple. The numeric keys, alphanumeric keys, basically letters, numbers, and any punctuation we use when we create documents. All of those keys are highlighted with yellow. Then we have our navigation keys, which are marked with green, and those are the arrow keys. And then we have what we call the six-pack keys. No six-pack that we usually use during summertime when it's hot, not that kind. We're talking about the six-pack of keys that are above the arrow keys. And those are the insert, delete, home, and page up and page down. Those keys allow people to navigate through the documents. And then we have in gray color, the numeric keypad. And the numeric keypad is used for people who are totally blind to read documents that you can read using a combination of those keys. You can read characters, you can read words, you can read lines, you can read paragraphs, that kind of stuff. And some people may not use the numeric keypad for reading. It may be a person with physical limitations. They may use the numeric keypad as a mouse. So at the bottom of this slide, you also have a picture of a numeric keypad. And basically the way the mouse works when you use it as a mouse is your number 5 is your click button. Then all the numbers that are around the 5 will move you up, down, meaning 8 and 2. Left and right will be 4 and 6. And then the other numbers will go in diagonal in any other direction. You need to do a double click. You'll use your plus sign. You need to do a right click. You're going to use your slash, that kind of thing. So what happens when a computer, the same computer, is used by people with disabilities and people with no disabilities? Sometimes people just feel that using the numeric keypad is easier, so turn the numeric keypad on, and they can use that easily to enter numbers, and they forget to turn it back off. Then Carla comes to use the computer, and Carla's trying to read and she's not able to read. But why is going on? Why is this not reading? Not realizing that the numeric keypad is turned on. Therefore, my modality to access my information, to read my documents, is just not there. Same thing with the person that's using the numeric keypad as a mouse. They're not going to be able to navigate. Where is my mouse? It's not working. And so it is very important to keep that in mind, that if the computer is being used by people with or without disabilities, make a standard rule that numeric keypad is left turned off. So any accessibility features people are using are going to be available at all times. Okay, moving on. So when we talk about screen reading softwares, we have tons of different screen reading softwares that we use. And JAWS is the most popular one. JAWS is a robust screen reader that allows people to access the information using their ears. It reads what's on the screen. And you can read, again, by character, by word, by paragraphs, things like that. When we are talking about keyboards, we have two types of keyboards. We have the desktop keyboard, which typically has all the sections that we talked about in the previous slide, but we also have the laptop keyboard, which typically eliminates the numeric keypad to make it more portable, to make it lightweight. So they assume we don't need those keys. And sometimes they also eliminate the function keys. So what happens when these keys are not available? Then we try to use the right side of the alphanumeric keyboard as a way to simulate the numeric keypad. So when a person who's blind is learning how to use their screen reader, they have to learn the two modalities. So to give you an example, if they want to read a word, you can read previous word, current word, and next word. If you're using the numeric keypad, you will use insert and the 4 for previous word, 5 for current word, and 6 for next word. But if you're using the laptop keyboard, you're going to use your insert key may not be in a place that you really find it easier, and sometimes doesn't even exist. So if that's the case, the best way to accomplish the key that we use as the insert key, we're gonna call the JAWS key, is to use the caps lock key as our JAWS key. So if we're gonna read word by word, we will use the caps key plus the J, the K, and the L. J being the previous word, K the current word, L the next word. So if you start factoring the different modalities you can access a computer, you will start seeing why a keyboard is important. And you may be wondering how many keyboard shortcuts these people need to learn to navigate a computer. I will say no less than 200 keyboard shortcuts to have a good basic navigation, because you can have advanced navigation and do all kind of different things, but every single thing usually has its own keyboard shortcuts. Now, if we're talking about different screen readers, you may add some specific differences between screen reader to screen reader. What is important to keep in mind is that it's more important to learn Microsoft keyboard shortcuts. Why? Because Microsoft keyboard shortcuts are the same across the board, regardless what screen reader you're using. And that's 90% of the keyboard shortcuts. So once you learn those, you will feel relieved that the only 10% of keyboard shortcuts will be what you need to learn if you change from one screen reader to a different one. Okay, so we're gonna move to the next slide. And here we have some of the essential Microsoft reading commands. This will be applicable the same way, regardless if we have a desktop keyboard or if we have a laptop keyboard. So I have here some of the keyboard, Control Home to go to the top of the file, Control N to go to the bottom, Control left and right moves to the previous and next word. Just the arrow keys, left and right, will move next character, previous character. Up and down arrow will go previous line and next line. I'm gonna unplug my headset right now so I can share the way my screen reader reads to me and how I navigate just this slide. And then I will put back my headset.
Your default speaker has changed. The speakers will take our audio and will map.
Can you hear my JAWS now?
Control plus left or right arrow.
Yes.
And it's very fast.
Oh, good. I've been blamed always that I hear very fast. So let me see if I can slow it down. I'm sorry about that.
No.
Slower, 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 slower.
Okay.
Arrow keys.
How
read
is
by
that?
character. Arrow.
That sounds like I can understand that one.
All right. So when my screen reader is reading, I have a magic key called Control. So if I'm reading something and I don't want to finish hearing it, I just push my Control key and it goes quiet. So let me show you. I'm gonna go to the top of my file here,
Slide
Control
9.
Home, and it says slide 9. I'm gonna go down arrow.
Essential screen reading commands for most word processing products. Int plus down arrow. Read all.
Okay, it's reading exactly what I'm telling you. So that's why I say if I wouldn't have my screen reader reading and whispering in my ear, I wouldn't be able to do this presentation today. So, okay,
Control plus left or right.
I push my Control key and stop what it was reading to me.
Arrow key.
I just let it say arrow key instead of reading
Arrow
me.
keys. Read by character.
So it reads everything. Sometimes I even tell my husband, I wish you to have a Control key. He doesn't quite get it, but I know what I am talking about. So don't ever tell him that I shared that with you guys. Okay?
I call the Control key the shut up key. I'm usually shouting.
Right. Okay. So these are really typical commands anybody can use and navigate the document. I'm gonna put back my headset so I can have just to my ears only.
Yeah, now you have to speed it up again.
Yes. Okay. A little bit, just a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna move to the next slide. When accessing the internet, we will continue using the reading commands we learned to read the information that is in the internet. But typically, you only will type if there is a form field that you have to complete, some information. Otherwise, when you navigate the internet, it's just in review mode. So when you are in review mode, you can use keyboard shortcuts to jump to different areas of the website. You have regions, you're just gonna do R and R and R, and you will jump between regions. If you want to jump between headers, it's just the letter H. If you want to jump between links, you're gonna use the tab key. But if you're using, for example, Narrator, which is the screen reader that comes with Microsoft, you're gonna use the K for link to jump between links. That's where a little bit differences will come on. If you wanna move to the next edit field, you push the letter E. If you need to move to the next button, you push the letter B. So if you see here, at least these people were smart enough to make a very common sense that you push the letter that the word starts with. And I like that because really, I didn't have to learn more there. I just need to know, okay, it's header, I know it's the H. Unless you have really bad spelling problems, you don't know what letter the word start, that will be an issue, but otherwise, it's very simple and very common sense, as I said. And that's the way we navigate through a website. So when you're creating websites and you don't label, I'm sorry, my phone was talking. When you don't label link as a link, or you label a link, click here. When I am navigating between links, all what I'm gonna hear is click here, click here, click here. I have no idea what the link is. You have to be specific when you label those, that what you're labeling says exactly what the link is. Otherwise, you turn us away and we'll just exit the website. Same thing with edit fields. Many times I had gone to websites where I need to complete the information and all what I hear is edit, edit. And I'm like, yeah, I know I have to type something, but what is it that I need to type? So that's where accessibility come into play. And a lot of people confuse accessibility with availability. People says, oh yeah, it is accessible, it's there. Well, it may be there to people's good eyes, but it's not there for those of us that use assistive technology and access the digital information in a different way. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna move on. Attachments. Many times we send attachments to people, and attachments can be in different type of formats. I'm going to address just two types today: Word documents and PDF documents. So typically when you send documents, and I'm going to have an example here in the next slide. If I want to have access to text, here I have just two pictures. One shows a document that was made in Word, and a picture of the same content of information that was made into a PDF. You see the same information, but that doesn't mean I will access the same information when I use on a screen reader. In a Word document, more likely, yes. But in a PDF, there are some certain rules that need to be in place for the document to be accessible. So OCR, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what OCR stands for. If no, it's optical character recognition. Basically is when a picture of a text is taken and is converted and make accessible, available in a text format. So if we apply OCR in a PDF document, JAWS will have no problem reading. But if we don't apply OCR, when I open the document, my JAWS or my screen reader will say empty document. And you will see the information there. It's accessible for the person that can see, but it's not accessible for me. So let's take a look. This slide simulates a Word document. Again, I'm going to share my audio with you. I'm going to unplug my...
The remote speaker has changed. The speakers will take our audio.
And I'm going to slow down.
Slower, slower.
And I'm going to read this document that I received. See what is this is about.
Heading level 1, access to text important to employee information. Welcome to our company. Your start date is 7/1/2023 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Initial starting location. Company onboarding location. 3033 Warehouse Drive. Phoenix, AZTap. Your new employee ID is 4347. Your temporary password is 12345667. Your temporary
And that's it. So as you see, I was able to read line by line. Let's say I'm not quite sure what my schedule is going to be.
Initial start. Your start date is 7/1. Start date is 7-1-2023.
That's the
8
day.
o'clock and 4:30
Oh, 8 to 4:30. Oh, I like that 4:30 there.
p.m.
Okay, so it's accessible. I could read. I have the address. I have my schedule. I have the date when I start and that kind of thing. So that's good. But how about if this document was not sent to me in a Word accessible, in a Word document or an accessible document? What is going to happen? I'm going to put back my headset. We're going to move to the next slide. Here is a PDF. That's the way it shows. It's blank text to me. That's all what I will see. Or I will see with my ears, actually, because that's all what I have. Okay. How do we know if a document is OCR or had been processed with accessibility features and before we send it? Very simple. We're gonna use the command find, control with F, and we'll try to find a keyword that we see in the document. If the cursor jumps to that word that we are looking for, then our document is OCR. So you are okay to send it. But how many of you had received documents, a PDF document like 80 pages, and you need to locate specific section that your name is on that you're responsible for? Rather than navigating through all of those pages, trying to figure out where is the section that you need to work, you can do Control F, type your name, and boom, you jump directly to the section you need to work on. So you can navigate faster, you can be more proficient in doing your work, and not just you. This is applicable to everybody. It's one of those that I call universally accessible. It will benefit everybody, so why not? That's your tip how to make sure it works. Now we're moving to low vision. When people have low vision, like different things have to be in place. Magnification really is not just about making the letters bigger. You have to include, for example, The color contrast. Some people see better dark letters on a light background. Some people will see better light letters on a dark background, or some people may have a better luck with the combination of color contrast, like yellow on blue or orange on black, things like that. So when that's the situation, you have to consider that as part of the low vision settings that you need to change. The pointer is another one. A lot of people keep losing the pointer, and it's like, I don't know where it is. I cannot see it. So you can make that pointer bigger. You can make a different shape, and you can make it a nice highlighted color that makes you see it easier. And you can also add speech as you click on items. So besides seeing it, you'll be able to hear it, what it is. And here there is a picture of a woman using a computer. She has a magnification 4. And we also have a tablet, a Samsung tablet with one of those, I'm losing my words, online keyboard. Now, it is important to notice that when a person is using more than 4 levels of magnification, you know, the bigger you magnify the letters, less information is going to show on the monitor. So when you are at the level that you need level 4, you're going to see very few words on the screen. And then when people start navigating, panning between the rest of the screen, sometimes it makes it very unproductive. Person loses their track of what they're reading, and it may be time at that point that the person needs to start thinking in transitioning to speech screen readers, basically, rather than forcing their eyes and trying to read what is on the screen. Okay. Some screen magnifications, of course, can be turned on or off with the use of keyboard shortcuts. So, for example, if I want to magnify my letters here, I can use Windows and plus the plus sign. That turns magnification on and it start magnifying. Are the letters bigger now on my screen?
They look the same to me, Carla.
They look the same? Okay. You see it getting bigger there?
I think it's because you're in slideshow mode. It's not going to show edit mode.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, so you can easily access the magnification features or increase magnification or decrease magnification by using the Windows key plus the plus key or the minus key. And if you want to change the color contrast, you're going to use Windows Control and C for color, and that will invert the colors. So just a very simple test. Sometimes, you know, it helps people to read better. But again, here we're talking about accessing or navigating this information with the use of keyboard shortcuts. If a person does not have the magnification to access information, I want to give you the same example of the job offer that I read before with my screen reader, and how somebody will see this same note when accessibility features are not in place for the person. So if you look at this picture, this is a central vision lost. So you see that part of this central part of this message is missing. And so this is just for you to have an idea the way the same message is gonna perceive for somebody that has central vision. How about for people that have eschotomas? And eschotomas can be in different places in the eye. This is just an example how this person will see that same information. So as you read on what's on the screen, you see that important information is missed. So for example, part of the address or the password code. Those are important pieces of information that the person needs to have. And that's why it is so important to make sure the person has the accessibility features they need to access. So it's not just about who creates the documentation, the information. It's not just about you making sure all the accessibility settings you need to have in place in your documents are turned on or are considered, but it's also the other part of the rule is that the user, the person that's using the assistive technology, all the features that they need to access this information are also turned on. So that gives a good match. You guys doing your effort making documents accessible and information accessible, and the person having all the features needed for them to be able to use those accessibility features you guys are putting in place. So when we talk about accessibility, you have to address both. And if somebody tells you your document is not accessible, it may not be all your fault. It may be that some certain settings are missing, and then you guys can work with the student and make sure the student has all those settings they need on so they can access that information. What tools do we use to type or to get information into the computer on digital systems? People with low vision may use large keyboards. You have a picture here of a large keyboard with contrasting keys. I think it's yellow on black. It could be that the person was born blind and they learn from kids to type Braille, to type, use the Perkins keyboard Braille. You can input information in the computer with the use of a, the Braille displays typically have the Perkins keyboard, and people can use that keyboard to navigate entirely the computer and enter their information. Or you can have like an external note taker and connect your note taker to the computer, and through the keyboard of the note taker, as long as you have it in display mode, you can also see the information of the computer on your Braille display and navigate that computer using your Perkins keyboard. So these are just examples of those typical keyboards. And if the person doesn't know all the keys yet, there is training available that will allow them to learn the keys without having to see it. You have to really learn by touch. That's what we call touch typing. Okay. Now we're moving to the cognitive disability. And I put this purposely after the low vision because a lot of the accommodations that are used for people with low vision may be applicable for a person with cognitive issues. When the person has cognitive issues, dyslexia, which is the most typical one that we will find, people will benefit from a text-to-speech software. Sometimes when the person has other cognitive disabilities, the color contrast may help them to be able to concentrate better in what they're reading. The font selection and spacing are very important. And if they are in the internet, you know how many times things show with a lot of pictures and advertisements and this and that, and all of that makes people with cognitive disabilities very confused about what they are reading. Visual simplicity is the most important for people with cognitive issues. We have softwares that allow them to take control of this when they are trying to access digital information. So Kurzweil 3000, probably some of you are familiar with that. text help read and write. Snap and read. I love that one. Like people sometimes just takes a picture of something, place their finger, and boom, start reading for them. And we have the immersive reader, which is a feature that comes with Microsoft now. I'm gonna share with you my audio.
Your default speaker has changed to speak.
Here we're gonna hear a nice explanation of how the immersive reader help people.
I'll be demoing the immersive reader, which is built in and free and part of many Office apps. I'm going to launch Word for Web right here. Now I'm in the free version of Word, and I'm going to go to the View menu, and I'm going to click Immersive Reader. Now I'm in the Immersive Reader, and what we did was we took the latest science and research around reading, and we focused inclusively to help solve all sorts of challenges around reading. So first off, let's make this full screen. In the upper right, I'll click here. Now at the bottom, you're going to see a play button, and when I click play, you're going to see text-to-speech.
The study of Earth's landforms is called physical geography.
Now that's a high-grade neural text-to-speech voice, and also text-to-speech is now built into Word along with word and line highlighting, which is a proven technique for some people to help with focus and comprehension. I can click voice settings at the bottom and make it faster or slower voice, and I can choose male or female voice. I can also change the way the page looks. So when I click on the AA in the upper right, I've got some options. So we know for some people who experience visual crowding, if I click increase spacing, this can reduce visual crowding for some people. I can change the background colors of the themes. So many people don't like to read with a white or a black background. I've got many options to choose from, and these are tuned for accessibility. So I can choose a color theme that works for me. I chose Comic Sans. This is designed for younger readers. Many students prefer the way the A and the G are written, and that's how younger children are taught to write. I can make the text size much bigger if I scroll up here. So think about short line mode, or think about English language learners, or think about students with vision impairments. It's really easy to customize the way that the page looks. Now, next up, I'm going to click on grammar options. And we know there's a very common technique breaking words into syllables, and I'll clap my hands like this. Syllables. Many students are taught that way. Some students with dyslexia will prefer syllable breakdowns. So by clicking syllables, I can break the words into syllables with a single click. I can highlight the nouns on the page with a single click, or the verbs. I can highlight the adjectives or even the adverbs. And I can customize the colors very easily. Maybe I want the verbs to be red, and maybe I want to turn a couple of these off, and maybe I want to show labels, which puts a visual distinguishing mark in case I have challenges with colors. So you can see it's very personalizable, and it's easy for me to do. Next up, I'm going to make the background color blue, and I'm going to go to reading preferences and choose line focus. Now let's think about students with ADHD, or maybe students with cerebral palsy, students with dyslexia. This is like a reading ruler, like an overlay. And see how I can scroll up and down with these arrows? I can read it out loud.
Glaciers or rivers. Landforms are sometimes called physical features.
So it's really easy to customize. And I can choose 1 line or 3 lines or 5 lines. It's really easy to customize in a way that works best for me. I can click on a word and get a picture. So we call this picture dictionary.
Earth. Earth.
Click on mountains.
Mountains.
Or valleys.
Valleys.
I can also translate, and this is really powerful. We can translate in over 67 languages here. And so I've chosen Spanish, and I'm going to turn on by word, and now I'm going to click on Earth.
Earth.
English.
Tierra.
Spanish. English.
Mountains. Montañas.
But I can also translate the entire document. So I'm going to click on Document, and now let's read that out loud.
El estudio de las formas terrestres de la Tierra se llama geografía.
And if that's too fast, I can slow it down a little bit.
Física. Las formas de tierra pueden.
And I can go back to the original or Spanish, and you can see it still highlights the parts of speech, the nouns, the verbs, and the adjectives in Spanish. So all of these capabilities are built right into the Immersive Reader, which is free and part of Word. It's also in Teams, OneNote, Flipgrid, Minecraft, Forms, Whiteboard, and Office Lens.
Okay, I'm putting back my audio.
Very cool.
All right, so that was very, very cool description of the immersive reader. Moving on. Now, what people with cognitive disabilities use for typing? So they may use dictation, they may use word prediction, and a lot of the software that's available for reading will include the writing assistance as well. And so again, here we are having the immersive reader. As you saw, he didn't did the dictation, but that is another option available through immersive reader. The Kurzweil 3000 gives you word predictions where people just start typing a word and it gives them choices and they pick the word they feel is the correct one. If they have good spelling abilities, this will really help them to if they actually don't have good spelling abilities, this will help them improve their spelling. So these are just some of the softwares available for them. And some of them are free of charge, especially apps for the iPhone and the Android. Sometimes they are free of charge. So let's move on. Now we're moving to physical access. So a person may have limitation in the upper limbs or the lower limbs or lower extremities. So if they have limitation in the lower extremities, they more likely be wheelchair users. And you may be thinking, well, what does that has to do with digital access? Well, when they are in a wheelchair and they have no access to the desk where the computer is, just physical access is a barrier to access the digital information. So these people may need to have like an adjustable table that can raise elevation so they can get with their wheelchair there. They may need a hold mounting device that will hold like their iPad, like in this picture. We are showing our Stephen Hawkins with in his wheelchair and with his iPad in front of him. You have here some hands typing on the computer. Oops. Oh no. I'm sorry. I got an error message with just. So this is the alternative pointing devices. Can you see that slide now?
Yeah, there's buttons and joysticks and stuff.
Right. So
Okay.
here we have like, instead of the regular mouse, you may have like 8 different alternative ways to access it. So for example, using trackballs, touchpads, joysticks, foot mouse, when you don't have like your hands available, but your feet is in good condition and you can use your feet to control with the foot mouse. You have a sip and puff mouse. You have a head mouse where you control with the head, the movement of your head, you control the mouse. Or with the movement of your eyes, you're able to do that. Or you can use switches, standalone or in combination with some of the above devices. So, and here you have some pictures of some of those. Next, I'm gonna show you this is a video of a person controlling the computer using a sip and puff controller. Okay, so let me share the audio with you.
I'm Jim Meldrum with Adaptive Computer Control Technologies, and I'm going to describe the lip sync sip and puff mouse. It's a USB device. Just plug it into the back of the computer and use the standard mouse drivers on your computer. Using the device, use your mouth to control the cursor. If I apply pressure to the left, the cursor moves left. It's like a joystick. If I want to move up and down, I apply pressure up or down. The user can use head and neck movement to control the cursor, or they can use their lips, or they can use their tongue. The clicks are done by sipping and puffing. So if I want to perform a left click, I blow into the mouthpiece. The left click is indicated also by the illumination of the LED. Left click will light green. A right click will light red. A right click is performed by sipping. And that's how we use the lip sync sip and puff mouse.
And the last kind of modality for physical access is using your voice. So with your voice, you can use like Dragon Naturally Speaking or voice control and a good microphone, and that will make it accessible to you. I'm gonna play a video next about somebody using the dictation, but here I want you to pay attention because this person, despite that is using the dictation, is using keyboard shortcuts.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the myrSILive.com YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to show you some of the best practices and ways that I use Outlook email with Dragon Dictation. We're going to be able to send new emails, reply to emails, surf through the Outlook menus, and change our settings. So let's get into it. Let's start first by using Dragon to command opening Outlook. Wake up, open Outlook. Go to sleep. Now let's show you how to navigate around the different areas of Outlook. And I'll also, as I'm surfing, describe what the section is called. So right now, what's selected is an email in the inbox. So let's just surf around. Wake up, press down, press down, press down, press page down, press page down, go to the top, go to the bottom, go to the top, go to sleep. Within the inbox, you can see when it's selected, you can use the scroll commands like page down, page up, down, go to the top, go to the bottom. Very handy. I'll show you a few more here. Wake up, press F6, go to sleep. So press F6 moves the selection around Outlook, kind of like in a circle. It's kind of weird, but you can see when I said that, the selector went from the inbox to the reading pane. What's highlighted in blue around here is called the reading pane. Let's continue pressing F6 and see what happens. Wake up, press F6, press F6, press F6, press down, press enter. Go to sleep. So hopefully you can follow what was going on there. We then moved down to the display settings, then moved up to the what's called the ribbon, and then pressed F6 again, or commanded it anyway, and then moved to the navigation bar. That's what this is called here on the left. Sometimes it's on the bottom, depending on how your settings are. And we selected the calendar by pressing down, pressing enter. Another navigation tip is Control-1 and Control-2. That's another way you can swap between the calendar and the inbox. Let's try that out. Wake up, press Control-2, press Control-3, press Control-1, go to sleep. Pretty cool.
So as you see, he uses a lot of keyboard shortcuts, but verbally. And so that's the importance of the keyboard, no matter what the disability is. Everybody can benefit from those ones. My next question is, now you guys have questions for me. That's basically the end of the presentation. There wasn't really much left.
Thank you.
When he was using the Dragon to navigate Outlook, does he have to use the shortcuts, or can he say, go to, my inbox? will it do natural language like that, where it'll just go to inbox, go to next email?
I don't think so, but if you don't know what to say, you can always ask, what can I say? And it will tell you different options that you can say depending what software you are in. And that is very helpful for people, because not everybody is gonna remember the exact command they need to use, but they will remember to say, what can I say?
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Thank everyone for spending this time, and learning about digital accessibility. If you discovered something new today, share it with your departments, mention it to your colleagues, because really, you are making a difference. If you have questions about how to communicate with or make your department or team more digitally accessible, stick around now, for the next half hour. You can start a conversation on the A11Y Liaisons channel or the accessibility channel. And if you aren't able to stay, I hope to see you at the next meeting on August 16th, when we're going to have a visit from a representative from Teach Access, which is a fabulous organization started by some of the major Silicon Valley companies I'm from their website, to bring together industry, education, and disability advocacy organizations to address the digital accessibility skills gap by equipping learners to build toward an inclusive world. So their goal is to bridge the accessibility skills gap through education, and they provide a lot of helpful tools and course material. So thank you, everyone. If you can stay, please do. Otherwise, I will see you next month.